our first brave speaker this evening is Keren Gescheit. When I first met Keren last week, I could certainly attest that she is, as everyone describes her, a happy, vivacious, put-together mum of three with wide eyes and an even wider smile. Keren's story tonight is one that shows us that things aren't always the way they seem at first glance. Keren's story of crippling anxiety and postnatal depression is not so unrelatable, as you'll hear, and she hopes that through her own lessons of acceptance and gratitude, she might empower others who are hurting.
If you had met me then, I had a smile on my face. Was I happy? I appeared to be capable. Was I coping? If you had met me then, you would have thought I was okay. To everyone who met me, I was every bit the happy, well-put-together young mum. However, behind the smokescreen was a mother who was struggling to leave the house, unable to eat from crippling anxiety, and suffering from postnatal depression. Behind the smile were the feelings of guilt, shame, and failure. I had always assumed I would thrive when I became a mother. I imagined blissful pregnancies and the anticipation that having a baby would be a dream come true. I had a vision for my family. I had planned to have a large family and, together with my husband, flourish in the joys of parenthood. My name is Keren Gescheit, and I am a recovering survivor of postnatal depression. My husband is Eli, and we have 3 beautiful children, Levi, Chana, and Mendel. Eli and I got married when we were 21 and decided we weren't going to wait before having children. We couldn't wait. The prospect of starting a family was too exciting. I was absolutely thrilled when I found out I was pregnant. The thought of bringing a new life into the world filled me with excitement, hope, and anticipation. It would mark the beginning of our new life as a family. Levi was born on our first wedding anniversary, and we were ecstatic. The first 4 weeks after he was born were wonderful. He was feeding well, and we thought we were getting the hang of things. Ellie and I were learning and adjusting well to being parents of a tiny new life. However, when he was 1 month old, Levi rejected the breast and screamed for 6 hours straight, refusing to feed or settle. I was baffled. We all were. What was going on? What had I done wrong? A new feeling of fear and of being completely overwhelmed set in. From then on, my baby vocabulary evolved to include words like reflux, cranial osteopathy, barium swallow tests, pediatric gastroenterologists, LOSEC, mothercraft nurses, and the list goes on. I had never known the babies could do anything but eat, sleep, poo, and cry, but within reason. Levi screamed for the first 7 months of his life, literally. Having walked into parenthood with certainty and excitement, I was left feeling scared and with my confidence shattered. At the time, I was never diagnosed as having postnatal depression, but in hindsight, I could tell that my anxiety was escalating significantly in those months. I became obsessed with my ability to settle the baby and was reluctant to accept any help. I believe it was this obsession that was one of the significant factors in triggering postnatal depression when my daughter Chana was born 2.5 years later. I was traumatized after my challenges with Levi. I was already panicking during the pregnancy and had a deep feeling of unease in the days before her birth. When she arrived, I was of course thrilled to finally have a baby girl to add to our family. Chana was a gorgeous baby, and I was completely besotted with her. Even so, my anxiety began to spiral out of control. I cried every day from the moment I woke up, and I was experiencing severe sleep deprivation. In contrast to the first few weeks after I had Levi, I was struggling to enjoy being a mother to Chana. This time of my life has actually become a hazy grey blur, with flashbacks of sobbing in the shower, being forced to be in a different house from the baby in order to get any sleep, which wasn't always possible because I could still hear her crying in my mind, and a feeling that life would never be okay again. I was seeing a psychologist who had to come out to my house because I couldn't get myself together to get out. I was struggling to implement even the simplest relaxation methods. I would try deep breathing, for example, but was so overwhelmed with worry that it failed to ease my anxiety at all. Chana developed terrible reflux too. She would only sleep for 20 minutes at a time and screamed for hours on end. I remember spending my days crying and trying to settle her. My husband Eli was an incredible support in every moment of what was going on. He was a calming presence for me when I needed it, and he would take Chana out on long walks so that I could try and sleep. He took extended leave from his job and was there to ensure that Levi's life wasn't impacted on by what was happening to me. I still have feelings of guilt because I was terrified to be with my own baby and missed moments of her early life because the intense emotions I was experiencing were all consuming. It's hard to describe the feeling of being disconnected from one's life, of having such an intense love for someone but not being able to be anywhere near them, to feel as though the world was closing in on me, as if it was a crushing ocean that I was drowning in. I was miserable and not able to function or engage with my life. People would see me in the shops and say things like, "Wow, you've lost all the baby weight. You look fantastic. You must be so happy." What no one understood or knew that I was that I was so skinny because I had no appetite. I couldn't eat, and when I did, the anxiety was so severe that it caused me to throw up most of the little that I consumed. At this time, my psychologist recommended I start taking some medication to help pull me out of the depths of my depression. Her initial suggestion triggered a new sense of panic. I didn't know much about it, and I did not want to be labeled. My family was trying their best to encourage and reassure me that taking medication would help me to feel better. It was an intense internal struggle for me to reconcile that needing to take something did not mean being labeled. It did not mean I was any less strong. I made the choice to start taking the medication, and in a way, I felt relief that I was at least taking a step in the right direction. After a few weeks, I noticed I wasn't crying as much. I continued to have sessions with my psychologist, and over time started to feel stronger, more confident, and better able to cope. I was smiling again and so much more myself. I was able to feel joy and excitement despite the challenges of managing a newborn with reflux. I could be in the room with Chana. I could hold her, soothe her, and give her all the love and attention that she needed. I could be her mom again. Life was slowly coming back into my body and my mind. By the time she was 1, I was feeling well and in recovery. We were all enjoying our gorgeous baby Chana and loving being a family of 4. Ellie and I so desperately wanted more children and were then faced with the frightening choice of whether we were prepared to try for another baby. We knew that there was a strong likelihood that I would experience postnatal depression again, and this potential reality weighed heavily on our decision-making. That said, I felt cautiously confident knowing that I had gotten through it before. I knew I had an amazing support network and also the learned knowledge and skills for self-help. I fell pregnant with Mendel, and I knew that I had to prepare myself. Minimizing the potential for anxiety became my goal. I decided that the new baby would be bottle-fed, and I had booked an appointment with the pediatric gastroenterologist in advance in case the new baby should have reflux too. Looking back, I think I just wanted to take control of as many things as possible, given the extent of the unknowns I knew were coming. Mendel came into the world in the most magnificent, calm, and relaxing birth. Bottle feeding him from the beginning was one of the best decisions for me. I was able to recover from the birth and get a full night's sleep, thereby minimizing the extent of sleep deprivation. Despite this, the urge to cry was slowly creeping in each day. I was trying to hold it together because there I was with a baby who was feeding and sleeping well. I knew in my heart things were headed down a similar path. Most days I cried from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning, and others I was just on the verge of tears, the slightest thing setting me off. I was terrified that Ellie would go back to work and I'd be left at home alone with the baby. I needed him with me to feel supported and safe. He was unconditionally committed to helping me through what was happening, supporting our older children, and essentially holding our family together. I was afraid of everything. I was in a very dark place where life held little joy, and I was in tears most of the time. I was so anxious again that I wasn't eating. I was thin, and I was miserable. Things got a lot worse with Mendel, despite the fact that he was a very good baby. My depression wasn't about him. I sought out the help of my psychologist once again, feeling empowered during our sessions, but lapsing back into melancholy straight after. It was like there was a big black cloud over my world, and at times it seemed like I couldn't breathe. I felt like someone else's thoughts were in my head, like I had completely lost myself. Surely this wasn't me. In my mind, I needed to find a way to let everyone around me know that I was drowning. I was truly lost. I knew I wasn't alone, but I felt completely isolated. How could I ever share these things with the people I loved? What would they think of me? What did I think of myself? I found myself in a state of panic and unable to rest. I was so overwhelmed that I felt like I would not survive. I had reached my lowest place. This was the turning point for me. I did not delay starting on medication as it had been so effective before, but I was still scared. Under the guidance of my GP and psychologist, and with the support of my family, I was able to overcome these challenges and persevere. I was putting one foot in front of the other and getting through life day by day. With each week that passed, I experienced improvements in my mood. I was beginning to smile and laugh again. As time went on, I could see beauty in the world and was able to re-engage with my life and in my relationships. I could finally see a happy future for myself and my family. Postnatal depression is a very real biological condition. My psychologist once likened it to an injury to the brain. In the same way that someone sustains an injury, breaks an arm, and has to have it repaired, so too postnatal depression is essentially an injury to the brain. The wires get crossed and mismatched and need to be restored. So what have I learned from my experiences? As with every experience, I like to learn something, take away a message or skills to improve my life, and take something positive out of a situation. 9 years later, I still feel like I am working on this part of my recovery. Some days I can see the silver lining, and others I'm left wondering why I had to struggle. The ongoing effects are still relevant to me today. Ellie and I had to change our life view and plans for a growing family. This was and has been the challenge of my lifetime, but with Ellie by my side, I know we are stronger for it. I have learned that each of my children is a gift from God, the truest kind of blessing and the most honest and real joy in my life. I have learned to be grateful for my incredible support network, my husband Ellie, my parents, and my close loved ones. Without this network, I don't believe I would have come out of my experiences the same. I always knew I had them by my side and on my side. I knew my older children were taken care of, nurtured, and given so much extra love that I do genuinely believe that their lives were kept normal, despite the very not normal situation their mother was in. I am grateful for my three beautiful, healthy, and happy children who bring us so much nachas. Without any of them, life wouldn't be life. I have learnt that life doesn't always look the way you had planned it to, and that sometimes you have to adjust that plan no matter how much it hurts. I have learnt that though it may seem that I can control my life, in actuality, the control is in God's hands, and that by yielding to Him, I can try to let go and take some comfort in knowing that He's only going to give me challenges He knows I can withstand. I learned that I'm stronger than I think, and that strength is in fact measured by facing a challenge head-on instead of running from it. Most importantly, I now recognize that reaching out for help is a sign of strength and not one of weakness, as I had so mistakenly thought. I've only ever told my story once to a private audience. After the event, even my closest friends made comments like, "We had no idea you were sick. You are so brave. You never said anything." Unfortunately, postnatal depression is something we just don't talk about. It seems to be some kind of taboo that isn't discussed in our communities. Postnatal depression and anxiety is prevalent and poorly understood. So many women are plagued with some level of distress after childbirth. Michal Finkelstein, a Jerusalem-based author and nurse midwife, describes aspects of a woman experiencing the darkness of postnatal depression. She says, "There are many shades to this darkness. To paraphrase, a woman may not be outwardly unwell. She may get up and go to work every day, make a nice dinner for the family, and put on a happy face. But her internal sadness and despair are eating her soul away. She lives with these feelings in solitude." This was me. At times I felt like such a failure. I was embarrassed and kept my secret close. I couldn't admit what I was going through and would not reach out for help beyond my immediate family. Part of my reason for finally sharing my story is in the hope that it could help inspire any women or men who are going through postnatal depression to speak up, ask for help, share your experiences, teach others, be kind to yourself, and know that you aren't alone. Postnatal depression is an illness and not a reflection on you as a parent. It is also my hope that in sharing my experiences, I can give those of you who haven't lived through postnatal depression an insight as to what it can be like, and to inspire you to be aware, be sensitive, offer support, and above all, a lesson for us all to be grateful. I would like to end with a poem by Caitlin Blake that resonates with my soul each and every day, in the hope that it inspires yours. There's a hole that sits within my chest I cannot quite explain, for it's just there and I'm not sure exactly when it came. Some days it's black and hollow, or it's small and hard and tight, and others it's not there at all, replaced by joy and light. I want to love each moment as I watch you grow each day, but some days I can't find the energy to sit with you and play. From the moment you lift your lashes to the time you fall asleep, I have to count each breath I take so I don't fall and weep. Each task becomes a struggle and soon I fall behind, which only makes the guilt I feel more present in my mind. But still, I want the world to see as I walk around with grace, pretending life is perfect with a smile upon my face, when inside I might be crumbling, tears just behind my eyes, anxious that my face might fail, revealing my disguise. I don't want to feel broken, and I don't want them to think that just because I have this hole, I'm sitting on the brink. Please, everyone, I'll be all right. In time, I'm sure it's true. But for right now, I need to know that I can trust in you, to remember that this little hole, too small and dark to see, does not take away the fact that I am still me.